3D printing will revolutionize supply chain.
Yeah.
All supply chain heroes should support Netherlands football team.
Yes, but I will say also support the Brazilian team.
Companies need to become more sustainable.
100%.
Welcome to the Supply Chain Tech Podcast with Roamby. Scott Mears here, Global Field Marketing Manager at Roamby and one of the hosts of the Supply Chain Tech Podcast. We thank you for joining us today. In this episode, we speak with José Baptista Cereser de Oliveira. Baptista is the Operations Director at Stratasys. In this episode, we discuss the evolution of 3D printing and how it is enabling operational and supply chain excellence in multiple industries. We also dispel the common concerns of adopting 3D printing. And we learn the endless potential of this technology. And I know from listening or watching this episode, you will learn how you can advance your supply chain today with this technology also. Hi Baptista, it's great to have you on the episode. How are you today?
Well, I'm fine, Scott, and you?
I am wonderful. I am very good. Thank you very much for asking. It's brilliant to have you on the episode today because I know we recently met at the Supply Chain Innovation Summit in Amsterdam, and I found your talk especially very interesting. And I'm really looking forward to diving into that and really understanding the value of what you're doing. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that evolves with the episode. Before we dive into that, though, I want to really, I always like to ask a bit of an icebreaker question. I always like to, get a bit behind the person and to understand who we're talking to today. So I know, you're an operations director, but I would love to know, what do you enjoy working on? What is it you enjoy about working in operations? And if you were not in operations, what role do you feel you would be in within supply chain?
Well, Scott, first of all, thanks a lot for this invitation. It's a pleasure to me to be with you here and share, ideas about supply chain, about operations and how we can improve the world. And answer your questions about operations, what I really like in operations. What I really like is work with people. And normally in operations, we have great teams, big teams, small teams, and all the time I be in contact with people. So this is my really passion. I believe this is crucial for the success of the operation, the supply chain, and the business. So in my operation, I split in three parts, like in procurement, manufacturing, and also supply chain is a big part of that. And if I do say working specifically in supply chain, what I like to go with my team to the field and see, the real operation with trucks, trains, ports. I usually make a joke with my friends that we are like kids. When you're a kid, you like to play with toys, okay? But now we grew up and we still play with big toys like trucks, trains, vessels. So this I really, really like. And this is my passion.
I love it. And you mentioned a few key things there, loving to, be amongst the team. It seems like you very much love to be amongst the team and, driving for that operational excellence. And in between that, you get to play with some fun toys as well. So it sounds like a really fun role all around. It sounds like definitely the one where you should be. And it sounds like there's a lot of fun that goes on, a lot of teamwork that goes on. So that's really interesting to hear, and how you really enjoy what you enjoy within that role.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's not easy to work in a daily basis with a lot of pressure in the world, but you really should enjoy the journey and have fun with our team. This is crucial to achieve the goals we have nowadays.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And moving on, what we really want to focus this episode on is we're really going to dive into, the value of 3D printing, because this technology is really interesting to me, and it's and with 3D printing, it's really coming in and it's taking over job roles, it's creating new job roles that we've not seen before. And I really want to find out with 3D printing, what role is it playing today? But before we get into that, I was quite surprised to learn with 3D printing that it's actually been around since the 1980s, which I was surprised to find out. But I feel like it really got popularized in the last 10 years. I feel like it really, there was a big boom of 3D printing. Everyone was talking about it. And I'd be interested to know sort of if you could take us through the journey of 3D printing and sort of maybe how it's evolved since the 1980s and what are maybe some key milestones just for us to get our understanding, because it's been around for quite some time, but I know it's only now, from what I understand, is now getting adopted a lot more within, the manufacturing process. So it'd be interesting to see what that journey's been and where we're at today with it.
Oh, sure. Well, if you search in the internet, you'll find many information, but actually that's true. Around 1980, one Japanese guy started with this technique to print layer by layer, one liquid plastic. And this technology was almost similar what you have nowadays. The name is SLA. But yeah, this was the first guy who started in Japan. But some years later, some French guys, they started to do the same, but was only in States between 80 and 90 that one American guy, got the first patent for 3D printing, and they established the SLA technology. His name is Charles, and some years later, he founded 3D System. 3D System is a big company. By the way, is my main competitor nowadays. He founded 3D System in 1989. And during the same time, another guy in the States, the same name's your name, Scott. Oh. Scott and his wife started to try, print one toy frog for his daughter. He used like a glue gun with some plastics, liquid plastics, polyethylene, and also some candle wax. And with this mix, printing layer by layer, they start to print one toy frog for his daughter. After some years, he found Stratasys, and nowadays, Stratasys and 3D Systems are the biggest company in the world. And could I say, nowadays Stratasys is bigger. And yeah, we are leading all of this world of 3D printing. Together, in the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, we saw different technologies, like filaments is the most common nowadays. You have one plastic filament, and you can hit a nose, and you print a part. This is another technology. And another one, could I say, to summarize three technologies, liquids, filaments, and powders. Powders, we say SLS. We have a machine that you fill with powders, and with a laser, we can print layer by layer and get your piece. So these three technologies was the most common for plastics. And also, we saw more technologies for iron, for ceramics. And year by year, this world is consolidating. We're having different kind of technologies. And also, the companies start to buy not only printers company, but also materials company. Was my case that Stratasys bought DSM Covestro material, and they bought also software companies. And with these three pillars, printers, materials, and software, now we as Stratasys can offer the solution for the customer, not only a machine or a material. We can understand what customer needs, and you provide the solution for the customer. This is the journey since the 90s until today. And we can see now this movement. Before, this business was more for prototyping. And you will have many examples now that the industry is changing from prototyping to manufacturing. And that's, I strongly believe, will be the future. And this will be a big impact in supply chain.
And it's interesting what you mentioned there, you know, the separate ingredient. First it's coming from that small frog for, you know, his child, and then it's moving to figuring out the different ingredients. And now where Stratasys is at, where they've combined the three pillars. And I didn't know, I didn't look at it like that. And that's quite interesting how you break it down. It's the printing, the material, and the software. And you very much need those three things to go from creating those ceramics to moving all the way to, you know, something even much bigger and complicated, maybe a manufacturing process. So it's interesting how that journey has progressed, and how Stratasys has also progressed in that journey as well to where it is today. And it's interesting how it, you know, it's advanced so quickly. And what I want to understand now is, with this technology, and, you know, as technology comes in, you know, we know that it's going to both, you know, take over jobs as well as create jobs. And I find that very interesting with technology, as much as it brings lots of efficiency. And I'm always interested in learning what efficiencies is it bringing today, and what efficiencies do we believe it will play in the future. And we're going to specify this into supply chain. So I would like to look into is, what are some of the key roles 3D printing is playing in supply chain today? And please do specify the industries, because maybe there's some industries that'll come out of this answer that you would say that are, you know, are adopting this much more than others.
Yeah. Well, how can you split, first of all, the industries in 3D printing? Basically, we split this in 6 parts: aerospace, automotive, medical, dental, consumer goods and electronics, and also industrial. So we have nowadays different, like a commercial team to approach each kind of industry to understand what they need and offer the solution. Okay. But talking about supply chain, what I can see, basically we can print the most of the parts nowadays. And the big advantage for supply chain, I can see 3D printing can reduce the long supply chain, okay, and improve the independence of the production. For example, we saw 2 years ago a big issue in the Suez Canal, when the big vessel blocked the canal, and in Europe we were waiting many parts from China. And you saw many companies start to print parts here in Europe. Well, you just design in the software I told you, send to the machine, and with a specific material, we print here the part, and you don't need to wait the material arrive in Europe. That was the solution for that issue for many companies. We could see this. So I think a good improvement for supply chain, you can reduce in this word of supply chain that you talk about resilience. Well, we can transform your business. You can give more resilience for your business if you can print, and you can cut some tiers in the chain. So this is one advantage, could I say? But also in some business you can reduce your inventory, because you don't need inventory. Only when the customer put an order, you can print the part, and you have the part. You can reduce your costs, and you can also be faster than before. You don't need to spend money with inventory, also to storage in the warehouse and things like that. Talk about digitalization. Yeah, everything must be digital, because you need to print. And this became faster, the process, because when you just send an email with the project, we can receive in another country, print this material, and with this digitalization, we will transform, and your logistics will be faster than the normal way. So this is, I believe, the key points for supply chain related to 3D printing.
And I find that really interesting, that inventory one you mentioned there, because that created a question in my mind when you were saying it. I guess that's so interesting because, you know, there's so many countries that we rely on for, you know, imports and exporting to, but it becomes very interesting when you all of a sudden have a printer that can print that part that you were trying to import. That becomes quite interesting. How do you feel that's going to evolve, that, you know, and how it could affect, you know, the exports and imports? Of course, materials will always be key, the key 4 materials you mentioned, but do you feel that's going to start to affect, you know, importing of goods?
Yeah, well, I think will change. Now I'm facing this issue because I need to export the material, but this will be my part to export to the correct part. But the customer, they only receive, as I told, a file. They have a printer, they have also the material, they print, and that's it. We mentioned this during the event, the supply chain innovation, some challenge and collaboration between the logistics and supply chain. We solve these issues for our customer. Stratasys is helping in this supply chain collaboration to provide the materials where the customer needs. And with this, we will solve also this issue for the customer.
That's brilliant to hear. And where do you see this advancing then in the future? So currently there's already efficiencies it's bringing to quite a few industries you mentioned there. But where do you feel this advancing to? What do you could you see it really advancing to for supply chain in the future?
I can give one example. One recent example we had in States. One customer, automotive customer, he's like a partner of Ford. They produce some parts for cars, especially for F-150 and Mustang. They produce parts of the car to improve the performance. And they were facing some issues to produce one camera mount, like the support of camera that go in front of the car. And they had like hundreds or maybe thousands of trucks to finish and improve. And yeah, they faced like a project issue in this camera mount. The customer is a partner of Stratasys, and together we find a solution. And in the end, we start to prototype the solution, and in some weeks we find a solution. And normally this project in this customer took 4 months.
Wow.
And in some weeks you could find a solution. And you said, look, but now we have big machines, and you use the powders technology, one big machine that you put powder, and you can print a lot of parts together. And the solution was not only to prototype and find a solution. With the customer said, okay, why not manufacturing the part? And you start to manufacturing this part for this customer, and you solve the solution for thousands of trucks in between 4 and 8 weeks since the beginning until we assemble the cars. So that's how I see the future. Nowadays we talk about prototyping, but you can see many examples how 3D printing is moving from prototyping to manufacturing. With the machine nowadays, we have like the material solution for customers, but also the printers is getting more faster and faster. And you can also customize the solution for the customer. So this is so interesting how we can be faster. And specific in this project, we could solve all the issue, well, in 50% of the normal time and 35% cheaper than normal solution. This is one example that I strongly believe we will see in the future for more and more customers.
That's I like that example you just gave there about, you know, I mean, you've just half the time. You've literally cut 50%, and how that's then evolved in something even bigger. You go, wow, well, if you can do this, well then let's get, manufacturing these in quick time. That's really interesting. I only looked at it at first, the manufacturing process, but obviously the testing and prototyping piece of being able to quickly prototype and test different designs just through just printing them very quickly. I think that's a really interesting also for companies. So the advancement of 3D printing that can bring to our supply chains, especially the manufacturing testing process, really seems to me that it can have already is and can have a continued impact that is going to massively improve the efficiency of time and the quality of what we're producing, which is just, it's really something to look out for. And I think companies really feel they need to think.
Scott, that point is very interesting. If you go deeply, for many industries, you should be certificated to produce this part. And Stratasys is going to get this certification, and you can produce the final part. And again, you put tiers in the supply chain and provide the final part to the customer with all the certification the customer needs. This is, how unbelievable is this kind of solution? We can reduce the chain and provide the solution for the customer with the quality they need.
That's brilliant. That is so good to hear. And I know definitely information that the watchers and listeners of this podcast and this episode is going to gain value from, because they may be dipping their toes into 3D printing, may have heard it from the event we just attended and just thinking, will that fit? Because as we know, we're as technology providers, when we take technology to a customer, they go, okay, well, the technology, I know you have all these use cases, but our supply chain is unique. Our supply chain is unique. I go, of course, every supply chain has its unique qualities, but it's tried, it's tested, and it really feels like this is something that companies need to, really think about taking on board, and at the very least testing it on one of their lines. I want to move onto the industries, and I know we touched on, I think we touched on about 6 or 7 industries you mentioned there. And which industries have been the early adopters of 3D printing? And which industries do you feel will be more like the late majority, and why do you feel that?
Well, talking about the industries, I believe the first that started to use this was the aerospace, because when you talk about airplanes, it's not easy to design the part. And with 3D printing, we can design like very complex geometry and print that. I can give you one example for you. I have here in my table, okay? This is one part printed, okay? It's very complex. This is with powders. And in aerospace, we need many parts in the airplane that is very difficult to print. Also, you need to produce one material with a good resistance, and also shouldn't be so heavy. You should make the material more soft for the airplane. And with 3D printing, we can design this and print with a good material. Also, with 3D printing, you don't need to assemble the parts. You can print the parts together with only one part. Maybe I can show you another example. Look at this one, the Stratasys one. This is only one part that you print. But you can see we print only one part with different materials, different colors. And in aerospace, they need to print together. So in these markets with complex design, specific material, and it's not like a lot of parts, you can use 3D printing. And they started this in early 90s, and they are using until today a lot. This I believe it was the first industry that was using. But also you can see all the other ones. I told us medical is developing a lot. Dental is unbelievable. We have a big market, very huge market for medical and dental. Automotive, I believe automotive could be a big market. It's more difficult because we need to produce a lot of parts. That's different between aerospace. Aerospace use, well, some parts, not too much. Automotive, several parts. And this we are going to decrease the cost. And soon, as I told you, the example of our customer, the automotive customer, yeah, we are achieving this now. This is some examples, but also, yeah, another example about consumer goods. We have a use case with Nike that they produce the football shoes for the American football, and they design one shoes with all the things under the shoes, and the players to play football, they get better performance to start to run in the field. So we have several examples in different kind of industries that they are using more and more. But as I told you, I believe at the beginning, E9s start with more airplanes and defense.
Interesting. So again, there's been an evolution with the 3D printing, and I love that you brought some props on. I appreciate that. That was really good to see, and especially that second one. That had a lot of moving parts and quite an intricate design. And it's interesting you say, yeah, because the way I've always seen 3D printing is it does individual parts and then you would lock them together. And whereas you're saying aerospace, that's not always the case. They need it as one whole part and it needs to be built. So that's interesting how aerospace, took this initially as an early adopter and really have ran with that. And it seems to be bringing great value to them. But then it goes as wide as what you just said there to more, athletic sports shoes for the football team so they can be better and more refined. So yeah, I can just see this becoming endless, and it's really interesting to see how it's going to get adopted. And that must be exciting for you, right? In Stratasys is seeing how this just tomorrow go, oh wow, we're doing this now. Oh wow, we're doing this now. That must be quite exciting for you to see that change over time.
Yeah, another example that came in my mind, Siemens, has many things, but they have one specific part for rail, and they need the spare parts. Oh, I have spare parts for machine also. This is not easy to control the inventory. Many parts. So I saw one use case that they had machines to print the spare parts. And with this, they could reduce in the inventory, also reduce the cost of the storage because they can print almost when they need. So if you have the printer and the material, this is one example of the industrial part. They can print this and send to the customer when the customer needs. So this is another example that how we're changing this word for supply chain.
Yeah, you really are, and it's great to see, and I know everyone listening to this and watching this is also learning that along with us. And I would love to learn on, we've spoken about some individual benefits for different industries and how it's evolving. I would just be interesting as a marketer myself, how are you, Baptista? How is Stratasys communicating the key benefits? Like, what key benefits are you communicating, and how are you communicating these to the many industries you operate in, or as a general to all industries, in order to promote the adoption of 3D printing in supply chain?
Yeah, well, as I told you before, the key message here, I think we can reduce the dependence of long supply chains. We can cut all the layers, all the tiers. Some industries you don't have a long chain, but some you have a very long chain. You can reduce this. You can leave your supply chain with more resilience in this world, with many challenges. We saw the last year's challenges like pandemic, the Swiss Suez Canal, also the conflict in Ukraine, Brexit, many challenges, and you can avoid many problems with 3D printing. So this for me is key, and also we can reduce the inventory, we can be faster and more flexible. Nowadays I can see more and more customers would like to customize the product. In a normal manufacturing world, it's not easy. You saw in the example I give you, 4 months to change one simple component. Imagine to change with 3D printing. You just change your project and you start to printing another part. So it's very flexible and fast, this process. This, could I say, is the most important points.
Thank you for sharing that, and definitely points that we need to be aware of. Now I want to move on to, because as much as I love to dive into, what are we currently doing? What can we achieve further in supply chain? I always like to also look at the side of maybe some challenges customers may come at technology in order to be ahead of this. And we deal with it. We've also been in supply chain visibility. There's always challenges to the solution. Then we have to be ahead of that to make sure that we're communicating the information correctly, so they know how you overcome them. So I just wanted to dive into some key sort of responses that I've heard when it comes to adopting 3D printing on a mass scale, and just sort of let's discuss them and go through them, so then we can put them to bed and put them away, so then our consumers of 3D printing feel more comfortable. So of course, environmental impact. I mean, everyone's sustainability, there's everyone's got a sustainability goal. I mean, the event we went to, there was a few commitments to sustainability and being net neutral. And really, with the environmental impact, I know, of course, manufacturing as a whole is a high energy consumption. Would you say, 3D printing, how are you overcoming that at Stratasys when it comes to environmental impact through energy consumption, even producing harmful emissions from 3D printing?
Yeah, well, first of all, in Stratasys, ESG, all the topics about sustainability is a big pillar for us. We are really committed to improve the world. And said that, some examples I say, when you print the parts, not only in Stratasys, okay, but all the 3D printing market, you avoid to lose material. When I use in my printers, I fill my vat with the material and I start to print. I print and I use that part, and the rest of the material I use to print again and print again. So we can use all the material and almost you have no loss in the process. So this is very sustainable. Another example, very similar, maybe is easier for the people to understand, but with the complex design, okay, that you can do in 3D printing, could be for plastic, could be for other things, you can design a part with the good resistance, but you don't need to use all the material that you use in a normal way. To exemplify this, that you can see, I live in Netherlands, in Eindhoven, and I saw another project here. I'm a very curious guy. They are printing homes here. And cement is a polemic topic for this environment. And what they are doing with 3D printing, they design the home and they don't need to fill all the pillars, all the parts, the walls with cement. They did some structure with a good design that you have a good resistance, and you don't need to use all the material. Use less and less material. And also, you avoid waste. We avoid to put in the rubbish a lot of material. This is totally sustainable. Could be for Stratasys in the project I have nowadays, but this example with cement make more clear for all the people that is not so common 3D printing, that how we can design a part with less material, and in the end you have the same result for the customer, and you can also improve the environment for our kids in the future.
Of And that's, thank you for explaining that and breaking that down. In that house example is very interesting. You know, when there is leftover material, being able to reuse that for alternative or other houses, other products, that's really good to see. And I want to move to maybe another. Let's do maybe another 2 points here. What about on the expense side? I appreciate, you know, there's different expenses within different industries, so it's you know, there'll be different comparisons of pricing to the manufacturing process and supply chain within different industries. But have you found 3D printing, when you've come and you've, you know, generated a new customer, that the expense versus 3D printing, you've identified actually it's a much more cost efficient way?
Yeah, that is a challenge. Was a big challenge many years ago. But what we are doing with innovation, we are improving the process, and we are making our products cheaper that the customer can buy. And it's interesting, when you approach the customer, normally they don't know exactly what they need. Talk about 3D printing. They know the process, and you have our team, our commercial team, that go and understand what the customer needs. As I told you, now we don't sell more machines or material. We sell the final solution. And when you take in account all the supply chain, and you do a use case, you can see you can also reduce costs. For some industries, it's no-brainer, like aerospace, as I told you, we can do cheaper. But also for some cases now in automotive, we can see this example. Of course, if you have a very mass production, it's more difficult for us, but year by year, we are improving the process and achieving the results, and get machines faster that you can produce as faster they are producing nowadays, and also with a better cost. But for sure, this is a challenge. But I can see for some case, for the medical and dental, it's like unlimited. We can find one solution that you don't have nowadays. We can improve the life for us, talking about medical and dental. You can scan parts of your body, and you can print a specific part. Could be for your spine, could be your teeth, or could be like a guide that go connect to a spine to do a surgery. So I see in different industries, because this I split the industries, is easier to understand. We are improving. For some industry, will be faster. Other industries maybe will take more time. But I strongly believe, I don't know exactly when, but it will change all the industries.
And I absolutely agree. You know, there's so much value 3D printing can bring. And it's amazing. Again, you just shown more examples of the vast impact it can have and is happening. I mean, the fact you can create a piece for your spine for an operation is unbelievable. And it seems like, you know, even though at times it may have a bit more of an expense, the complexities it can deal with and the speed in which it's dealing with it, it seems like it outweighs that. And of course, with aerospace, it's just a no-brainer already. So it sees like that, it looks like that, you know, that concern is definitely evolving, and especially already within the medical and aerospace space already. I'll do one more, is technology. Again, every technology faces this. This is not individual to 3D printing, but job losses. It's an interesting one, isn't it? It's a one that always comes up in conversation about with technology, is with the advancement and efficiencies, it will create a portion of jobs, but it will also take a portion of jobs. What's your thoughts on that as 3D printing advances in what it's doing?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we'll change what we are doing nowadays. And you saw in the past with different technologies, when you move from industrial area, you saw the internet, you saw many revolutions here. We can see also drones. That's another tool for us that will change a lot our life. It's changing our life. I believe 3D printing will be the same. But believe me, we need a lot of people. And here I could say for all the supply chain guys, so we need good people in our team. So we will offer many new roles in the future with 3D printing. I mean, we'll change how we are doing nowadays to improve the solution for our customers, for the world, but you need good people to help us to develop the solution and also execute what we need.
Absolutely, and I totally agree that there's going to create those new jobs and those new exciting efficiencies within our businesses as well. And before we do our little fun segment, what excites you most about 3D printing? What you individually, what excites you most about 3D printing?
Yeah, I believe the strongly is like you can create unlimited. Mm-hmm. This is what you usually talk internally in the company, because we don't know exactly where we can go. We can find unbelievable solutions with 3D printing. So I believe strongly this, we can create unlimited with 3D printing with Stratasys.
That's fantastic. And it really does seem like, there's no ceiling on this. Stratasys can go to the stratosphere. They can just carry on going beyond. You can have that tagline if you want. I'll give you that. I always like to finish on with a bit of a fun segment we do. We do a thumbs up, thumbs down. So if you could, I'm going to give you 6 questions. And it's just a yes or no answer. And all you need to do is just go thumbs up or thumbs down. And if you could also say verbally thumbs up, thumbs down, it just allows the audio listeners to see what your answer is as well. So, some questions will be 3D printing. There might be some funny ones in there. We'll see. And it's always interesting to see people's answers. So,
okay.
Ready for the thumbs up, thumbs down?
Okay, let's go.
Brilliant. So number 1, 3D printing will revolutionize supply chain.
Yeah, strongly believe.
Supply chain heroes need more real-time business intelligence.
Yes, more and more.
All supply chain heroes should support Netherlands football team.
Yes, but I would say also support the Brazilian team.
And the Brazilian team, yes. 3D printing will become an integral piece of operational excellence.
Yes, as I told you, I don't know exactly when for each part of the industry, but one day we will be there.
Absolutely. Companies need to become more sustainable.
100%. This is not only for supply chain, not for our company, but the future of, all of us and our kids.
Absolutely. And finally, we need more collaboration and partnerships in supply chain.
We can see a lot nowadays, so yes. And this will improve the chain, improve all the supply chain, all the parts can get benefits of that, and especially for our customer.
Absolutely. I think that's the first time we've done that. It's been 6 thumbs up. You didn't do 1 thumbs down. That's great to see. That's good. And you were even supporting Netherlands, even though you're a passionate Brazil fan. So that's I'm sure that's much appreciated by your colleagues. Well, no, it's been great to speak to you, Baptista, and it was really interesting to hear what you're saying. And I think it's something that people and the industries really need to take notice. Aerospace and medical seem like they're very much on with it, but it seems like that there really is an endless value to what you're producing at Stratasys, and I think this is something that industries really need to at least test this out and see how it can play a part within the supply chain process. So thank you so much for coming onto the episode.
Thanks again, Scott, for the opportunity, and if you need anything else, let me know.
Thanks so much. We'll just give them a little wave together. We'll do a little wave, say bye-bye. Thank you very much, everyone. And listen to the next episode coming in a month's time. Hi, my name is Scott Mears, and I'm one of the hosts of the Supply Chain Tech podcast with Roamby. On this podcast, we talk to supply chain heroes from around the world about everything, ranging from the disruptions related to supply chains, their personal experiences with tracking technologies, strategies to build resilience, and much more. We already have some recommended videos for you to the side of me, and if any of this sounds interesting to you, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss another Roambee video. I'll see you next time.